Hey everyone, Robin and Hannah here from InspireMe.
Hi.
And so today's video is going to be about personal relationships. Now, we're not relationship coach, that's not what we do, but in helping people make transitions in their life, both personally and professionally, the personal relationship is a kind of key thing that we end up focusing on, to be honest. And so what we wanted to do today was actually just share with you about how hard relationships are. Because they are, that is the reality. Like, you know, I hear some people say, Robin, surely a relationship shouldn't be this difficult, or work-life balance should be this difficult. I'm like, it should, it actually is. And in actual fact, that's one of the biggest things that I think that we need to focus on, is that we see so much social media and all this stuff telling us that everything should be easier and all that. And then we have this expectation, and then we look at our own reality and go, well, there must be something wrong. But in actual fact, and that's what this video is about us being really truthful about our relationship. And so hopefully it can kind of help some people, because, you know, people say, oh, well, what do you and Hannah do and stuff. The God's honest truth with everything for us as a family, for me individually, is all the skills, tools or tactics that I talk about, we actually do them.
Yeah.
And that's why we know that they work. But that doesn't stop shit happening, and that doesn't stop us going through really kind of like difficult times and those types of things. And, you know, I don't know, can you think of a year that we've had where it's been like totally cruisy?
Oh, the first year we moved to Byron.
Oh yeah, that was a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what happened after that though?
Well, because we decided that we were on holiday for a year, and then we had to pull it all back because we got into debt because we'd been on holiday for a year.
So yeah, you know, like you could kind of, and almost that was a year of kidding ourselves, going, no, this is all awesome and stuff. So, you know, like we have had like the odd year where it's generally good, and maybe you can think about it, but pretty much every year there's
Since the children have come along, for sure. I think we had a cruisy couple of years before the children came along.
Yeah.
But the children, you know, our children mirror all of our unmet needs and our undealt with emotions. So, of course, the more they mirror, the more we either have to do our inner work or it's tumultuous at home. And so the first couple of years before we learnt this, it was really tumultuous. And it's getting better and better as we understand that the only way that we're going to get a harmonious relationship and a harmonious family life is when we individually do our work to feel our emotions and release our traumas. Because why relationships can be hard is if you're both coming from a state of trauma and you're both coming from a state of reaction rather than, you know, seeing the positives, or what do you always say when you say see the
intention versus impact.
Yeah, you know, when you're coming from that place, it's more harmonious. But if you're not doing your own inner work, it can be a real struggle. And that's probably when we've had the most amount of difficulties in our marriage or our family environment, was when we were either disconnected from self, disconnected from each other.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like, as soon as, I say this, if you're not good, then normally nothing's kind of good around you. Like, work's not good, or this is not good. Or what can happen, if there's a certain area of your life that's not good and you're out of whack, then it's easy to blame those closest to you and then put an over exaggeration on that.
Like a filter on it.
But the key thing is that you're not right in yourself. And that is a challenge, because and one of the things that we've done a video on this earlier on in the year as well that's super helpful, is the Gottman Institute. If you look at that, that's fantastic, with the 4 horsemen. And I also did a video around the 4 horsemen of, like, if you're coming from criticism, if you're coming from contempt, if you're being defensive, if you're stonewalling your partner, they're the 4 key things that are leading on a pathway to destructive kind of relationship. And it's about coming from love. It's become from being grateful. It's about coming from a place of positivity, about support, and actually, like, how can I help, and just flipping these things. And it's super useful. And what we found, particularly for me, and this is where I owned up to it, Hannah, was just like totally 4 horsemen in my head. I don't say those things to you, and I don't, you know, kind of act them out, but they're in my mind, and they're probably kind of coming through. And actually taking ownership of actually your internal voice. And I can't think of anything that that is more powerful than actually just stopping and actually owning your own truth. Like
Speaking
really
your truth.
owning your own truth. The easiest way to do it is stop any projection externally.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, as soon as you're going to owning your own truth, yeah, my truth is that that's not right and that's not right. No, that's not owning your truth. That's externalizing
It's
it.
projecting.
Come really into yourself. And it's when, and in fact, I was away for a weekend where the Four Horsemen really hit me. I just spent a weekend away. I went camping and I was walking along the coastline, coming into myself. And then that's when it hit me. I was like, yeah, I'm not showing up being my authentic self.
And then you feel that energetically, and then you have an opportunity if one of you says, hey, I can feel there's something going on. Again, if you don't speak your truth and you say, no, I'm fine, that you've missed an opportunity, you've missed a bid for each other's attention, you've missed that chance to say, actually, no, I am doing this, or this is the problem, or, you know, this is how I'm feeling. So open communication and truth in communication is vital.
And most people, I reckon, as including us, would go, yeah, I'm truthful with what I say. And like, bullshit.
But only when you really start doing it.
But bullshit because we're not actually truthful with ourselves. So being truthful with another person absolutely starts with you being truthful with yourself first.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest bit. And like, particularly around personal relationships, and I think about everything, humility around that is just absolute, and vulnerability is absolutely key, because that's where you go from feeling sense of shame and then reacting from shame to actually being able to flip it and come from a more loving kind of way, is to actually just talk more truthfully and vulnerably and openly and those types of things.
And when you start doing that, the intimacy grows, because you can start to actually go, oh, right, I can trust that, you know, he's saying the truth and speaking the truth. And then what's really important is that when you start doing that, the intimacy grows, which grows more vulnerability and more truth and more safety, which is what we both want. In a relationship, you want to feel safe. But then also what that allows you to do is then sort of work through your stuff together, because you know that you're being authentic with each other. An example of this is like, you can see something from a negative point or you can see it from a loving point. But you can't get to a loving place unless you've done the work to show up authentically with each other. So an example this morning we had when I was, you know, one of my core wounds is not being heard, not being listened to. And I said something, and Robin went to check if it was true on, you know, he just Googled it to see if it was true. And previously I would have been very triggered by that, like, well, why don't you just trust that I've said the truth? And then I sort of was able to see it from a place of like, oh, this is Robin's want and desire to learn and to take that information and to check it and to build on that. Whereas if I was looking at it negatively, oh, he didn't listen to me, he didn't trust me. Because I see it from a loving place, I was able to see, it's nothing to do with my wound, it's just, you know, what he wants to do.
Yeah, and I, you know, just hearing that story and a lot of things, and I've just been filtering some of the relationships most recently in our personal lives that have broken up. You know, these people have been married for like 20 years, 30 years, some of them, 15, etc. And it's the thing that I see with almost corporate problems. And it's actually the basics that's actually gone wrong. It's actually the basics, it's the foundations and it's the basics. And every time I do like advanced negotiation, this, that and the other, it comes back to the basics. And in relationships, it is the basics. And I can think about, you know, one couple at the moment particularly, it's the absolute foundation. They're just jumping to judgment what the other person says, because they've been with them a very long time. So it's easy to jump to judgment. It's like, well, they've been doing this for the last 15 years and I know what they're going to do and da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, well, do you really? Are you actually really giving them the opportunity? Are you actually speaking your real truth, which is that, and that's your real truth of coming back to what's most important to you. Actually going, and that's one of the key things that I think that has worked well for us, is having that humility to come back to that basics and go, look, it is the basics and we just need to come back. We are both committed to try and be the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're committed to both showing up equally in parenting our children. So what does that mean? Now,
and we're dedicated to our love.
Yeah, and all options are on the
that.
table if one of us needs space or whatever that means, like with options. But it's like that's that's the core kind of most important kind of thing. And then when we come from that, it's like, oh, well, okay, what's going wrong? What do we need to do? Well, I'm not feeling heard in this way. Okay, cool. I'm going to receive that message, because if I judge that message, that's not getting us anywhere.
Or defensiveness. That's one of the harmfulest things you can do. If when your partner brings you something and you go straight into defensiveness, it's very unloving, instead of just actually going, oh, okay, I can totally feel that's how you feel, and listen, active listening.
And I think from this space as well, there's a lot of things. Obviously, I can't say what my clients kind of tell me because they shoot me. But it is really, I find it really interesting, the number of things that people that I've worked with, even like coaching or even just in workshops, people come up to me and say, hey, this is the dynamics that's actually happening in my personal relationship with my husband or wife, etc., or fiance, partner. And I give them some advice about, well, have you actually ever said that to your partner? The number of times they say no, like it is ridiculous. And it is the thing for us but I personally, to help me, I actually need that time away sometimes, because when you're in it, it's hard to see the shit for the trees. When I go away and I can just breathe there and go, okay, and just reflect on, right, what's kind of really going on, that then I start to see things. Then that gives me the insight to then kind of come back and then communicate to Hannah in a way which is like, okay, look, this is what I'm observing. And equally for Hannah, what's the times that work for you where you kind of have that reflection time for kind of coming back and identifying, cool, look, we need to deal with something here?
I think I just have a sense of it and just feel it and communicate it. I don't necessarily need time away to feel that that's more your thing, but I think for me it's just feeling it in the moment and expressing
I see it more for you, like when you're handling a lot of self-development and reading and challenging yourself and watching other people's content, and it tends to be when it's not necessarily what they exactly say, but it triggers a thought for you.
You're right.
That's the thing for you.
Yeah.
Whereas I need silence.
Yes.
Because I'm around it all the time. I need silence to kind of like, almost like caveman days. I need to go back into my cave and kind of retreat and then kind of feel that. But you've got to be careful with that withdrawing, because withdrawing, if you're withdrawing your love, then that's a stonewalling thing. Yeah. But again, that's the confirmation that we have, which is like, no, this is right for me to do this right now.
And I suppose there's the difference. So when he was going away and we weren't aware of that dynamic in our relationship, years back, we weren't aware of the sort of attachment avoidant polyvagal theory type thing playing out, that would trigger me and I would go into anxious attachment. But now we understand that because one of the things that works for us is truly trying to understand each other's true self, and we individually trying to reach our true self. I'm able to sort of see that's what he needs to help him. So I support him with a lot of love to do that. Whereas previously it was maybe there was a resentment there was a contentment of like, why do you have to go away to do that? Because it feels like you're withdrawing. So it's you have to learn to really understand each other and come from that place of love so that you don't react. Because I think one thing that I see in coaching my clients is that naturally we create stories. And we build on those stories and build and build and build. And 15 years into the marriage, we have created a story of a person that we're actually not married to anymore. And that's something that can be really detrimental. So finding the true self and understanding who you actually are is really, really important.
So two things for me. One is that attachment theory that Hannah spoke about. We tend to marry the opposites or partner with the opposites. So someone who's got more of an anxious attachment to a relationship and a more avoidant, which is kind of similar to ourselves. So those opposites in relationships attract. There's a person who needs fixing and the person who likes fixing people. Do you know what I mean? They kind of like, and then like, well, that gets boring over time and stuff like that. And it's just a matter of taking, just realizing that, because opposites do attract, but then opposites is where it really works as well. And it's actually like needing to work through that. And I think
at the same time we're quite similar though as well, aren't we?
Yeah. But this is like for everyone else. And there's a book called Attached, which is highly recommended as well as the Gottman Institute. But one other thing it's really easy to talk about this stuff and then kind of like talk about, unicorns and rainbows and this is what we do and everything else like that. But I want this to be really, really truthful. Like Hannah's looking worried now. So what is it that I do that has really been like the hardest points for you, where you've kind of thought, oh, is this over now, or do I love this person still, or what's those things that I've done that have hurt you the most, for instance?
I've only felt that in the last I'd say 2 years, a few times. Honestly, before that that didn't come up, was because you were personally going through so much and your reaction was to withdraw. And so you were so withdrawn that I couldn't feel you anymore. So then my protection of my heart was, I have to get out before he hurts me. And that's my anxious attachment. If you have an anxious attachment, you leave before you get hurt. So, but then when you sort of started to work on yourself in a different way, and you understood your bipolar, that was a massive part that really helped. And we were out of the floods and fires and surgeries and all the drama that was actually putting added pressure on our marriage. We were able to sort of return back to, I think, stronger than we've ever been.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing actually. Like the thing about other people, I think that a lot of the time we underestimate like the external impacts on us.
Yeah.
We think it's easy, like, okay, well, we're partnered and we have children or whatever, if you're lucky to be in that kind of situation, and you just defend and look after that and things happen. But looking back, particularly looking at the year compass that I did, looking back over the year, was just like, shit, that was a tough year.
Tough 3 years.
Yeah, it has been a tough 3 years, to be honest. And I think that we don't give ourselves enough grace and enough compassion to go, yeah, that is tough, and I do need help. And that's definitely been the thing for me to go, and particularly the last 12 months, where I really focused the year to go, right, I'm really gonna dig even deeper than I have. And it's really funny because I shared my insights with my clients, really openly. And I went through, and I think I've done videos on it as well, like my Vision Quest kind of stuff and that. And people said, but Robin, isn't this anything, this is all that you've been telling us? And I'm like, yeah, but it's just like the next level.
The next level. There's layers and layers.
You just got
to
keep you just need to kind of keep digging.
But it's also about, individually doing your own work so that you show up as your best self and you don't stonewall and you don't project and all those things. But then as you do your individual work, it's then also doing the couple work, and the two you cannot do separately. You cannot do couple work and not do individual work, and you cannot do individual work without doing couple work. They are entwined. You have to do that together.
I totally agree with that. And that's where every time that I've done stuff for me individually and then shared it like openly and honestly with Hannah, not like the Gottman Institute stuff which I shared with her, because I was just like, I knew about it before and just came back to it, and I was just like, look, totally, this is me. I didn't kind of imagine or project about what I wanted her reaction to be.
Yeah.
But it was, oh man, you're totally right, and and then you really dug into it as well, and then that took us to another level both.
Yeah.
And that is actually what true collaboration is how can we work together to achieve more than what we can individually?
Yes.
So I achieved that, and then by sharing it with Hannah, she went to the next level, which motivated us to go to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's the work that needs to be done on a relationship. It is tough, it is hard, and we need to give ourselves, some credit for that, and actually just look after our own needs a little bit more, be a bit softer with ourselves, be a bit more humble with that, get support where you can.
Well,
There's
that's
so
been a
much
big thing
support.
for us. We've always got support when we needed it. In our tough times, we parent a PDA autistic child, and we're all on the spectrum, we're all neurodivergent, so there's that added nervous system tension as well. And in our toughest times, we've always reached out for some sort of support. And it's normally 1 or 2 sessions. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's months and months of counselling, but there's normally something that just goes. And in this case, it was the Gottman Institute, but previously it's been somatic work or whatever it's been. And it's just helped so much because it's an external person going, yeah, but can you see this? And can you see this? And you go, oh yeah, because again, the stories come in. Well, I'm doing this and he's not doing that.
Yeah.
And then the stories play out.
Totally. Well, hopefully this has provoked some kind of thoughts for you. If you've got any questions or queries, just kind of reach out. And if there's any topics on personal relationships that you'd like us to cover, more than happy to do that as well. And we'll see you very soon.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
See you.
If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Feel free to share with friends and check out what's up next for more videos from my channel.